Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're here, you're probably looking for that shortest possible route from being curious about something to actually being capable.
Right.
We take the source material, we pull out all that dense knowledge, and then we try to deliver it as, something you can actually use.
An actionable insight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And today we're diving into something that is, it fundamentally transforming the entire creative landscape, web development.
That's right. And our mission today is, I think, really critical and very, very modern. We're getting into the fundamentals of how websites get built, but, and this is the key, we're doing it through the lens of AI coaching. So if you've ever felt like building a site was just too technical or it would take too long.
Or just too much code.
Yeah.
So much code.
So much code. Then this deep dive is, well, it's your shortcut. We're here to figure out exactly how AI just slashes the time and the expertise you need to bring a digital idea to life.
And let's be really clear about our source material here. This isn't just, some general theory we're throwing around.
No, not at all.
Our entire exploration is grounded in the insights from the book, AI Coaching for Web Development Fundamentals, by Mr. Zahir Ahmad Mir.
And it's structured less like a textbook, which I love, and more like a playbook.
Right. It's designed to fast-track your understanding so you can get the big picture, the conceptual framework, without getting totally bogged down in, endless, painful coding tutorials.
We're basically using it to find the fastest path to becoming an architect. You grasp the architecture of the web first, what are the components you need, and then right away, you learn how AI plugs into every single step.
I like that. The architect.
Think of it this way. The old way of learning was like learning carpentry by going out and milling the wood yourself.
Right, with hand tools.
Using hand tools, building every joint by hand. The new way is you describe the house you want to an AI, a digital fabricator, and it just handles the cutting, the fitting, all the structural stuff instantly.
The car still gets built.
The car still gets built, but the creator's role has just radically changed.
And the core thesis that's driving this whole discussion is, I think, incredibly liberating. It's this idea that every great website begins as an idea. AI turns that idea into reality.
That's not just some marketing fluff either. It's a technological fact, and it changes everything about the required skill set.
So we have 3 immediate goals for you today. First, we need a really modern, refined definition of web development. Second, we need total clarity on the difference between front-end, back-end, and full stack.
And third, and this is the big one, we have to fully grasp AI's role in just simplifying how all those parts get put together.
Right.
To get that clarity, the book gives us this central analogy that we really need to carry with us through the whole deep dive.
And what's that?
A website is not a passive document. It is a living thing.
I love that analogy. We have to lean into that. Because as soon as you talk about a website as a living organism, you're not in the world of abstract computer science anymore.
Exactly.
It's something relatable, something with different parts that all have to work together.
Absolutely. We're not just analyzing lines of code. We're analyzing a complex living system. And for you, the learner, this is critical. If you understand the different working organs of this system, their roles, how they depend on each other, then you understand how to command an AI to build it.
So that's the mindset shift. You become the life architect.
You're the architect, not the microscopic engineer fussing with every little detail.
So let's start that anatomical breakdown. Let's look at this digital organism. And understanding these roles isn't just, for an exam. It's crucial because AI helps you think about and build each of these parts all at once.
Precisely. It lets you focus on the structure, on the intent. So we can break it down into 4, let's say, major components. They operate like systems in a body. Each one has a very distinct, very vital role.
Okay, so let's start with the most obvious one, what we can actually see, the front end.
Right.
The definition is pretty straightforward here. It's everything the user sees, interacts with, clicks on.
In our analogy, this is the face and the smile of your site.
I like that, the face and the smile.
It's the presentation layer. It's the aesthetic. It's how the site engages with a person's senses. If you click a button and a menu just gracefully slides open, that's the front end doing its job.
Okay, so that's the face. Then we have to move deeper to the operational core, the back end.
Right. And this is the invisible machinery. This is where the heavy lifting happens, where information is stored, processed. We equate this to the brain and the nervous system.
So it takes the input from the face.
From the face, yeah. That click, that search query, and it decides, okay, what do I do next? It manages all the logic to deliver the right response.
And, of course, every living thing needs a memory. So that brings us to the database.
The site's vault of information. It stores its memories, names, messages, orders, login details.
It's what allows the site to remember who you are.
Exactly. And what you've bought and what content you should be seeing. It is the persistent, reliable memory of your entire digital creation.
Okay, so we have the face, the brain, the memory, and then there's this new revolutionary component.
AI tools, and as the source material defines them, they're not really a part of the body itself. They're more like an external, super intelligent presence.
Oh, coach.
A dedicated coach that guides and accelerates every single move. The point here is that AI lets your imagination, your ability to communicate clearly, drive the whole process. You don't need to be a low-level engineer anymore.
You don't execute, you ask.
That's it. You ask. So if you, the listener, can just internalize those 4 roles, face, brain, memory, and coach, you've basically mapped the modern landscape of web development you're ready to start building.
Okay, so let's dive deeper into that first one, the front end, the user interaction layer, right? The buttons, the text, the menu.
Everything you touch and see. And historically, this was the first huge hurdle for anyone who wanted to become a developer. Before AI, you had to have this painstaking familiarity with the traditional pillars.
We're talking about the big 3 languages, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. For, what, decades? These were the absolute non-negotiable entry requirements?
Decades, yeah. And let's break them down. HTML provides the structure.
Okay.
So if we're building a house, HTML is the framing, the drywall, where the rooms go. It just dictates the hierarchy. This is a heading, this is a paragraph, put an image here. Without HTML, the browser has no clue what it's even looking at.
Then you have to make it look good, which brings in CSS. That's the style.
And this is where, historically, the pain often started for people.
Oh, yeah?
CSS is the painting, the decorating, the layout. It determines the fonts, the spacing, the colors, and crucially, whether your site looks good on a big desktop screen or, on your phone.
And finally, you have to make it do something. That's JavaScript. It delivers the motion.
Right. So if HTML is structure and CSS is appearance, JavaScript is the functional movement. It's the code that makes a photo gallery slide, or it validates a form to make sure you entered a real email address.
It's what turned the web from, like, static pages into actual applications.
Exactly. But we need to be really critical here. While those 3 are foundational, the history of web development is just filled with the misery of mastering them.
Oh, absolutely. I think anyone who's tried knows that.
It is. I mean, think about the friction points AI just removes. There's a concept called CSS specificity hell.
Been there.
We've all been there. You're just trying to make sure that the style you apply to one little button doesn't accidentally change every other button on your entire 100-page website. It was a nightmare of complex rules and .important tags everywhere.
Or what about just making it look the same on every browser?
Ugh. Cross-browser compatibility. Writing the same piece of code 3 different ways just so it would look the same in Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Chrome.
Good riddance to Internet Explorer.
You said it. These were roadblocks that took months, sometimes years, of just painful debugging experience to get good at.
And on the JavaScript side, I mean, trying to manually manipulate what they call the DOM, the document object model, just to get a simple animation to work, that was a heavy lift. It stopped so many projects cold.
The point is, the old way required you to be an expert carpenter, not just an architect with a vision.
Okay, so now we get to the paradigm shift. How does AI just bypass all of that difficulty?
It becomes your instant front-end assistant. It just handles all those technical pain points we were just complaining about.
So it's your designer, your coder, your debugger, all rolled into one.
Yes. It just eliminates that painful, repetitive, error-prone task of translating your vision into hundreds of lines of HTML tags and CSS rules.
So let's look at the process. The book gives a really good illustrative prompt. It's all about the simplicity of the input versus the complexity of the output.
Right. A user doesn't write code. They just say what they want. They articulate their intent. The example is, create a simple homepage with a welcome message, my photo, and a contact button.
Okay, now traditionally, that would mean writing the HTML structure, finding the right image tags, wrapping everything in containers, setting up all the responsive CSS so it doesn't look terrible on a phone.
And then writing JavaScript to make sure the contact button actually does something.
That's easily a full day of meticulous work, right? Even for someone who knows what they're doing.
At least. The AI-powered way, though, is instantaneous. The source confirms the result is immediate. The AI generates valid, working, and critically responsive code.
And you can just preview it and then say something like, make the buttons teal or use a more corporate font.
Exactly. You edit it with plain language and then you publish it. All those friction points, the CSS specificity, the responsiveness, getting the tags nested correctly, it's all handled behind the scenes.
And this is where that identity shift you mentioned happens. You're not a coder anymore. You're an architect.
Yes, an architect focuses on the user's journey, the visual flow, the experience. They don't worry about the tensile strength of the rebar in the concrete.
They worry about if the building is useful and beautiful.
Exactly, and the specific tools mentioned in the book really show how this works. You've got Replit AI, which is great as an inline assistant. It helps you fix or complete code you've already started.
The sort of co-pilot.
A copilot, yeah. Then there's V0 by Vercel. This thing specializes in generating beautiful, complex UI components. You need a perfect card layout or a stylized login box. V0 is your tool. It focuses on the detailed aesthetic parts of the face.
And then there's the one that seems to really embody this whole architect concept, Framer AI.
Framer is the one. You describe the entire structure and style of the website, the whole building, and Framer uses AI to generate the complete visual layout. It's ready for you to just drop in your content and publish.
So you're not writing CSS. You're designing the UI and the UX.
The required skill set completely shifts from, debugging semicolons to defining clear objectives and aesthetics. You have to be able to articulate your vision, understand design principles, and then critically evaluate what the AI gives you. The AI just handles the painful translation into code.
Okay, but let me introduce some friction here myself. If the AI is doing all of this, what happens when it breaks? If I'm an architect who can't read a blueprint, how do I fix a crack in the foundation?
That is a fundamentally important question, and the source addresses it, maybe implicitly. The mastery shifts to understanding the conceptual map.
Okay.
You don't need to know how to write the perfect CSS media query, but you do need to know that the site has a structure, which is HTML, a look, which is CSS, and interactivity, which is JS.
Right.
So when the menu breaks, which is probably a JS issue, you don't look at the code. You ask the AI, why is the JavaScript event listener on my menu failing? The AI then uses its knowledge of the code it generated to diagnose the problem and suggest a fix.
So your job becomes being a highly educated manager of the AI's output, not the manual laborer.
Exactly. You debug the prompt, not the code.
Okay, so we've established the beautiful responsive face of the website, the front end. Now we have to shift our focus to the engine room.
The logic, the security, the data, everything behind the curtain.
Yeah.
The back end.
And the back end is, arguably the more technically complex and, frankly, intimidating half of this whole digital organism. Well, it determines the site's actual utility.
Right.
It's the part that decides what happens when a user does something. The front end is just kind of sitting there until the back end gives it a job.
Exactly. When a user sees a form, types in their contact info, and clicks submit, that's when the backend takes the baton. It has to process that data, validate it, protect it, and then, store it or act on it.
Let's get specific about the core tasks the source says the backend handles. First, and this seems like the most fundamental, saving data.
Right. This is crucial for persistence. If a site can't remember anything, it's not very useful. So whether it's a blog comment, a complex e-commerce order, or just remembering that a user is logged in, that data has to be securely filed away in the database.
In the site's memory.
In the memory, exactly. Second, the backend manages external actions, like sending an email confirmation.
Oh, okay.
This requires the server to talk to other services, an email provider, a payment gateway, whatever. It's the communications manager for the whole system.
And then there's the third task, which seems like the most complex, showing different results for unique users.
Personalization and security. This is huge. Every time you log into your bank or Amazon or Netflix, the back end is running all this complex logic.
Right.
It's checking your login details, verifying your permissions, looking at your history, and only then does it serve up a custom page just for you. The front end just displays the results. The back end did all the heavy, personalized thinking.
To really make this stick, the source has another great analogy, the coach's tip. It says the back end is like a professional restaurant kitchen.
It's a brilliant analogy.
It works perfectly because as a visitor, the user, you never see the kitchen. You only see the polished dining room, the front end, and the menu. But every single tasty, customized experience starts back there, behind that swinging door.
Right. The front-end waiter takes your order, that's the user input, and sends it back to the kitchen. The back-end chefs and the cooking staff, they execute the logic.
They have to check the pantry, the database for ingredients.
For user data, yeah. They follow complex recipes, which is the server logic, and they have to make sure the right meal gets plated for the right person. That's your security and personalization.
And if the order is really complicated, like an e-commerce transaction, the kitchen has to check inventory, process a credit card, generate a shipping label. All these steps have to happen in the right order, securely, before the final plate is handed back to the waiter.
That management of logic and data integrity is the essence of back-end development. And historically, managing that kitchen was brutal. You needed detailed knowledge of server operating systems, languages like Python or Java, and you had to master SQL to talk to the database.
These were huge barriers to entry.
Monumental.
Which brings us to the really transformative part. No-code AI back-end solutions. AI and modern cloud platforms have just demolished that barrier to entry for the engine room.
Right. We're talking about platforms that just abstract away all the server management and complex database query writing. They let you, the architect, define what I need a user to log in and save a list of their favorite movies, and the platform handles the how.
And the source highlights three big options,
Yeah.
right? Each with a different level of control.
Exactly. First up, you have Firebase. This is basically Google's integrated serverless solution. It gives you a real-time database and super scalable hosting. The skill needed is marked as beginner.
Okay, so what does real-time database actually mean for someone's project?
It means that when data changes in the database, it automatically updates on the user's screen without them having to refresh the page. Think of a live chat application or a collaborative document.
Ah, I see.
Firebase is amazing for speed and rapid prototyping. The trade-off is you're kind of locked into the Google ecosystem, but for a beginner, it means you can have a dynamic app with user data up and running in minutes without ever touching a server.
Okay, next up is Supabase. The book notes this as an open-source backend with authentication and a more traditional database. The skill level is beginner to intermediate.
Supabase is for the architect who wants the modern ease of something like Firebase, but prefers the stability and relational integrity of a classic SQL database, in this case, PostgreSQL.
So it's more structured.
Much more structured, and because it's open source, you have more control and less fear of being locked into one vendor. It's the next logical step up for someone who's mastered the basics and wants a more robust kitchen.
And then there's the third option, which sounds like the most accessible of all, Airtable plus Softer.
Pure spreadsheet magic.
It says it transforms a spreadsheet into a web app. The skill needed is pure beginner.
It's incredible. If you know how to organize data in columns and rows in Airtable, you can define your entire database. Softer then comes in and provides the front-end layer and all the communication logic. You can build simple client portals, internal dashboards, public directories, all without writing a single line of server code.
What's really fascinating here, and what the source is underscoring, is that the ability to build a backend is no longer about some esoteric technical skill.
No.
It's about organizational clarity. If you can clearly define the relationship between your customers and their orders in a spreadsheet, you can define a database.
And if you can describe to an AI or a platform what should happen when a user clicks submit, the execution engine handles the rest. It has completely democratized the engine room.
So you can now build a truly functional, dynamic website, one that saves data and remembers users, using skills that used to be considered soft skills.
Logic mapping, planning, and clear communication. The AI is just the interpreter, translating your clear intention into executable server logic.
Okay, so we've got the aesthetic front end, the face, and the powerful back end, the brain. The big challenge now is getting them to work together in perfect sync. This is section 3, full stack synergy.
Right. And full stack development is, at its core, simply the stage where the front end, what people see, and the back end, the logic and data, are working in perfect harmony.
It's when the organism becomes truly functional.
Exactly. When the brain decides to move the arm and the nervous system just flawlessly executes that command. Historically, this integration phase is where, a huge number of projects just failed or got stuck.
Because the systems didn't talk to each other correctly.
They didn't talk to each other correctly.
Yeah.
And this is why AI's role shifts again here. It's not just a coder or a designer anymore. It becomes a system architect or an integration specialist.
And the source says the AI works 24/7 to handle this integration, managing tasks that require really deep conceptual knowledge.
Great. Let's detail some of those advanced tasks. First, AI can suggest database designs.
That sounds huge.
It is. A good database design is the cornerstone of any stable application. If your data structure is flawed from the beginning, your app will be slow, data will get duplicated, and it'll just break under any real load.
This used to take database architects years to master, right? Concepts like normalization.
Years. Normalization is just a fancy word for organizing your tables to reduce redundancy. But an AI can analyze your project description. I'm building a social network for birdwatchers, and instantly suggest an optimized structure for your user tables, your sightings tables, your photo tables, all with the correct relationships already defined.
Wow. Okay, next, and this seems vital for any real-world site. AI can generate secure APIs.
Yes. An API application programming interface is the standardized communication bridge between the front end and the back end.
The secure protocol the waiter follows when talking to the kitchen.
Perfect analogy. And if that link isn't secure, if it doesn't handle authentication and encryption properly, you have data leaks, you're vulnerable to attacks, you lose user trust.
And writing those secure communication routes manually was a specialized skill.
Deeply specialized. You needed expertise in network security, cryptography. And AI now writes these complex routes for you, which massively lowers the security risk for a new builder.
But I have to pause here again. How can we really trust that AI-generated security is good enough? If an architect just blindly trusts an AI for the rebar, isn't the whole building at risk if the AI makes a mistake?
That's the right question to ask. And it highlights how your responsibility as the learner evolves. The AI is a brilliant junior developer, but it still needs a manager, you.
Okay.
So while the AI generates the code, the coaching tools that come with it can explain why certain security practices are being used. The AI might generate a token-based authentication system, and the coach will say, this method prevents session hijacking.
So your job isn't to write the encryption algorithm.
Yeah.
Your job is to ask, is this method secure enough for storing financial data? You're still managing the risk profile, you're just doing it at a much higher level. The AI gives you a high-quality draft, but you're the editor-in-chief.
That makes sense. It's about asking the right governance questions. Okay, the final task here is also huge. AI handles testing and debugging entire systems. And this is where chaos usually lives. Integration bugs. The front end expects data in one format, the back end sends it in another, the whole system breaks.
The kind of bug that's invisible until a real user finds it.
The worst kind. An AI can now automatically run comprehensive tests across the entire application, testing every button, every login, every data flow, and spot those subtle mismatches, and then generate the fix for you.
It's like having a tireless junior developer who just loves doing the most tedious testing and integration work imaginable.
And it frees up your mind to focus on what really matters, the high-level features and the user experience.
Okay, this all leads us to the transformation timeline. We have to really compare the old way versus the AI-powered way to see how massive this speed increase is.
This is where it becomes really concrete. This is what shifts projects from taking months to taking just days.
Okay, let's go point by point. First, code generation. The old way. Writing every single line of HTML, manually coding responsive CSS, a complex navigation bar that works on 4 screen sizes could take hours.
The new way. You describe it in words. Create a sticky, collapsible navigation bar with 5 links and a login button. The AI generates the finished responsive code in seconds.
Next, design decisions. The old way. Fiddling with graphic design software, manually choosing hex codes for colors, spending days just trying out different fonts.
The new way. You just set the tone, make it look friendly and modern, or use the color palette from this photo I'm uploading. The AI generates the entire design system instantly. That's days of design labor just gone.
What about API and backend setup?
The old way was installing a server OS, choosing a language like Node.js, writing all the routing logic, securing the environment. It was a whole separate job, a sysadmin job.
The new way. You use a platform like Firebase or Supabase, describe your data models to the AI, and you click Deploy. The secure, scalable infrastructure is ready in under 15 minutes.
Okay, what about troubleshooting? This was always the biggest time sink for me.
The absolute worst. The old way. Spending 3 days hunting for a single typo in a variable name that's breaking your entire form.
You're just staring at code, debugging line by line, getting cryptic error messages.
The new way. You just type, my contact form isn't sending emails, and it's not saving to the database. Why? The AI checks all the integration points, the form handler, the API endpoint, the database function, and it just pinpoints the error. It'll often just give you the code to fix it.
And finally, deployment.
The old way. A manual, often insecure process using FTP or complicated command line scripts. And then you just pray you remembered to clear the cache.
The new way. You click Publish with Vercel or Deploy to Firebase. The tool handles everything, the infrastructure, the caching, the security certificates, automatically.
This comparison is just. It's not a small improvement. It's a 10x accelerator.
At least. It eliminates an entire category of manual friction that used to filter out everyone except the most dedicated, technically minded people.
Which brings us to the ultimate conclusion from the source material.
And the conclusion is this. AI shortens the distance between idea and impact. If you have a brilliant idea for a new tool or a community platform, the time it takes to see if that idea actually works has been just dramatically, radically reduced.
And the key insight, I think, is that AI doesn't replace your creativity. It multiplies it.
It absolutely multiplies it. All that creative energy that used to be wasted wrestling with syntax or fighting with browsers is now liberated. You can pour that energy into refining the user experience or tackling more complex business logic.
You're not spending 80% of your time on setup and 20% on creativity.
You're flipping that ratio. The new bottleneck isn't your technical skill. It just perfectly encapsulates this whole power shift. Sarah didn't need to know about any of the historical friction points we've been talking about. She just had a clear, defined need for her art club.
A platform to show their work and let people get in touch.
Simple as that. So she didn't open a coding tutorial. She went straight to her AI coach and gave it a prompt that was basically her architectural vision. She told ChatGPT, build a website for my art club with a gallery and a contact page.
And the tool she used, Framer AI, it just executed that vision.
Flawlessly. It instantly produced the whole functional website, the structure, the style, the interactivity, the connection to a contact form, all of it within minutes.
He just uploaded their art, changed the colors with a few simple commands, and shared the link. But the most important part of the story for me is her teacher's reaction.
Yes, the person who remembered the old, hard way. The teacher was stunned and said, Sarah, you just did in one afternoon what used to take us a week.
That quote right there is the measuring stick. That's the AI acceleration timeline in a nutshell.
What used to take a week of coordinated human effort design, coding, deployment was compressed into a single afternoon of architectural definition and prompt engineering. It just proves the new model of learning. You focus on the what and the why, and you trust the AI coach for the how.
And this feeds right into the deeper meaning of all this, what the source calls the coach's insight. It's the philosophy behind this new way of creating.
And it's profound. Every learner needs to internalize this. AI doesn't replace effort, it rewards curiosity.
That's fundamental. It redefines where you should be putting your mental energy.
You're not rewarded for just grinding out repetitive code anymore. You're rewarded for asking sophisticated questions.
So the effort goes into being a better architect, a more precise question asker, a more discerning editor of the AI's work.
Exactly. The system rewards engagement and precision. The source emphasizes that the more questions you ask, the smarter your results get. So the path to mastery is now mastery through prompting.
Every single time you refine a prompt, every time you say, actually make that button green, but only for logged-in users, that's a step toward mastery.
You're learning to communicate increasingly complex and nuanced intent. So when the AI's first output isn't quite right, you don't waste time debugging the code. You debug the prompt.
You have a dialogue with the AI coach.
A sophisticated dialogue. You say, the form is submitting, but it's not saving the user's name. Show me the difference between the front-end data structure and the back-end schema. That process of critical refinement is the new learning curve.
And that dialogue forces you to learn the underlying architecture without ever having to memorize the syntax.
Exactly. When the AI points out the mismatch, you've just learned a crucial lesson about system integration without having to write a single line of the code that fixes it.
So this is immediately actionable. We want to help you structure your next steps using the practice zone and reflection box ideas from the book.
These aren't just homework assignments. They're immediate mental rehearsals to turn this knowledge into active creation.
Let's start with the initial definition task. This is to test your grasp of the architectural map. We want you to go to your coach right now. Ask ChatGPT, explain web development in 30 words suitable for a 10-year-old.
The act of distilling something complex like this, the face, the brain, the memory, into something that's simple forces you to crystallize your own understanding.
If you can explain the core architecture to a child, you have the vocabulary you need to communicate clearly with your AI.
Then there's the inspiration task. We want you to list 3 websites that you love and use, and then really analyze what makes them great.
This connects all the foundational knowledge we've discussed to your own aspirational goals. Is it a great site because of the elegant front end, the super fast back end, or the seamless full-stack integration?
Analyzing existing mastery is how you inform your own future creations.
And finally, the ultimate structured exercise, the vision statement questions. These are designed to push you past theory and into actually planning something. First, what is your first project? What's one concrete idea for a website you want to create?
Then, the critical question. How specifically can AI help you make that real this month? This demands a concrete timeline. It forces you to have an actual AI strategy. Are you going to use Framer for the front end, Firebase for the back end? Define your tools.
And the most evocative question of all, what is one word that describes your dream project?
Because if you can boil down your entire vision to a single word, whether it's functional or beautiful or secure or fast, that one word gives your AI coach the ultimate architectural goal to aim for.
This whole process just transforms you from a passive listener into an active, focused digital architect.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just do a rapid-fire review of those distilled core concepts. We want to make sure you leave with clear definitions that really stick, all grounded in that living organism analogy.
Let's do it. The front end. It's what visitors see on the screen. It is the face, the smile, the immediate interaction layer. It's what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript do.
The back end. That's where the data and the logic live. It's the engine room, the kitchen, the brain. It handles all the complexity, the security, and the transactions.
Full stack. That's when the face and the brain are working together in perfect harmony, communicating seamlessly through those secure protocols that your AI architect generated.
And most critically, AI tools are your smart helpers. They're there for design, content, security, and code. They're the coach that replaces the thousands of hours of manual labor.
Okay, so here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. It builds on Sarah's story and this whole idea that AI rewards curiosity. If mastering an architectural prompt allows a 12-year-old to build a gallery website in an afternoon,
What complex, utility-focused project is currently locked inside your mind that you can now actually attempt?
the value proposition has completely flipped. Your time is just too valuable to spend debugging server files or hunting down semicolons.
That friction is gone. The focus is no longer on mastering lines of code. It's on mastering the system design, the user needs, and the ability to articulate an exceptionally clear vision.
So our challenge to you is this. Consider that mastering the art of the prompt is now infinitely more valuable than mastering any specific programming language. Stop thinking like a programmer who executes low-level commands.
Start thinking like a system architect who designs sophisticated, living digital experiences.
We encourage you to start mapping that digital dream right now to find that one word that captures your first great project.
The tools are ready, the framework is sound, and the coach is just waiting for your command. All you need is the idea and the clarity to ask the right questions.
Until the next deep dive, happy building.